All right, let me move on here. Let's talk about this article. Pope Leo to the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith. Pope Leo to DDF, Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. Let's rediscover the joy of transmitting the faith, written by Deborah Castellano-Luboff from Vatican News. Pope Leo insisted that the transmission of the faith is a matter of great urgency in our time when addressing the plenary assembly of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith on Thursday in the Vatican. Addressing the DDF officials, the Pope said, "Your task is to offer clarifications regarding the doctrine of the Church." For those of you who don't know, that's what the DDF is for, to clarify questions or matters or confusion, to bring clarification regarding doctrines of the Catholic Church. Okay, that's basically the doctrinal office. Indeed, Pope Leo insisted, we cannot ignore the fact that in recent decades, a rupture has occurred in the generational transmission of the Christian faith among the Catholic people. A rupture has occurred in the transmission of the Catholic faith, especially in context of ancient evangelization. The number is growing of those who no longer perceive the gospel as a fundamental resource for their own existence, particularly among the younger generation. So let me simplify that. The Pope is basically saying, we're not handing down the faith as efficiently as we used to. This is especially worrisome or worrying when you look at the whole history of evangelization in the church. Okay, we used to pass it down like it was gold. Now we pass it down like it's a piece of paper with a nice coloring on it. Sort of valuable, sort of cute, but not that important. That's what he's talking about. He also lamented how many young men and women live without any reference to God or to the church, noting that while this causes us believers great sorrow, it must lead us to rediscover the sweet and comforting joy of evangelizing, which lies at the very heart of the life and the mission of the Bride of Christ. So first, let me get into what he said and then offer a little bit of pushback. For some reason, and the reasons are pretty complex and layered, Catholics, my generation and maybe one generation ahead of me, don't consider the faith to be that important. I think as secular culture became more and more Christianized, as I put it, so you have, for instance, you have politicians who say moral things, even though they're dirty scumbags. They say things like, love one another, love is love, we got to love everybody, take care of your neighbor. Well, that sounds very Christian. So because the truth starts with God, of course, comes to the world through the Christian faith, voiced by the Catholic Church, defended by the Catholic Church, it has so saturated the secular world that now you get secular people talking a little bit like Catholics. But it's not actually the truth. Love is not true, for instance. But you have the word love in there, so it's almost sort of like the truth. Close enough. Bingo. So because it almost... In other words, religion almost seems unnecessary because they're getting the same message elsewhere. And they're getting messaging that's harder, has backbone. Often the messaging they receive from the church, parish level, diocesan level, global level, doesn't matter. Often the messaging from the church seems to have no backbone. I'm not saying it doesn't, and I'm not saying it always doesn't, but it seems to have no backbone. That's a problem. So people think the faith is not that important. We can get the same messaging from the secular world. So now people regard religion and faith almost as furniture to their lives rather than the house itself. Furniture. It's subjective. I like it. I don't like it. I can pick and choose which one I want. I can furnish my whole house, and if I get bored with it, I just throw it all out and get something else. So people are not handing it down like it's important. My pushback, though, is this. This causes believers great sorrow. Rediscover the sweet and comforting joy of evangelizing. I have to tell you, as an evangelizer for 30-plus years, you know what's really sweet and comforting? Not evangelizing. I took about a year. It had to have been a little bit more than a year, but I took some time off from evangelizing, like completely. No broadcasting, no writing, no parish work, no diocesan work, nothing. And boy, was that relaxing. I felt so refreshed. I was much more dialed in spiritually. It's hard work. Now, the Pope is not talking about strictly about what I do. The Pope is talking about evangelizing with your life, living good Christian lives, evangelizing by handing down the faith to your children. My point, though, is sometimes that isn't very joyful. Sometimes it's hard. Have you ever tried, for instance, to teach your children to pray the rosary? Isn't that fun? The pushback you get, the annoyance, the whining, doesn't matter how old they are. That's a discipline to build, and it's a hard discipline to build. It isn't always joyful, evangelizing. The resistance that you get, the nature of the resistance that you get, which is different from children as it is from adults, different from adult to adult, the nature of the pain that you get. It's often very inconvenient, and it's hard to do because it challenges you, challenges your mind. How do I teach this? How do I convey this? How do I share this? Challenges your patience, challenges your time. Obviously, you have to prioritize your family, but you know what I mean. It's taxing and it's painful, but you have to do it anyway. On a small level, on a great level, we have to do this because it's similar to what I say. Who is praying for the poor souls in purgatory now that everyone thinks as soon as you die, you go to heaven? Now there's nobody praying for them, right? Well, who's evangelizing when everybody thinks evangelization is not necessary because the church is not important? It's nice, but it's not necessary. The faith is not necessary. You get the same moral messaging from secularists. Well, who's left to evangelize when the whole world thinks that way? So if you really want to stay on top of everything I'm doing, live stuff, on-demand stuff, video or audio or both, whatever, do please check out CatholicFirebrand.com, because when you subscribe there, you'll get notifications of different things that I'm doing. And it's not going to be frequent. It's not like I send out an email every day. It's not like that at all. You get notifications of the new episodes, new things that I've written. CatholicFirebrand.com. Put your email address in there. I don't spam you. I don't share your information, but it's the best way for you to stay on top of what I'm doing, where I'm moving and shaking, sticking, and floating around. All right?